Shalom, real quick. Giving all praise to Yahweh, Shalom, 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 God, but Shalom, to 1,000, let's see, like the Shalom to all. The video was put about Jesus, so precept I haven't watched the video, but he's about up to here, 4-minute mark. Not even that, not about here. Anyway, I'm going to title this video, If we go down, we're taking you with us. The Samson option. Babylon is going down too. Remember the least of the flock. But the title is or response. If we go down, we're taking you with us. The Samson option. But if you don't know what the Samson option is, it's a doctrine of Israel, Palestine, the government, saying if they think they're going to lose the war, or they think they're going to be annihilated by Iran's missile system, that they're going to shoot off their missiles, and they're going to just, if they go down, Iran's going down with them. But what they don't understand is, when they go down, Babylon is going to go with them. The least of the flock shall draw them out. That's Jeremiah 49.
Yep, shall make their habitations
So,
desolate.
I mean, like I said, I'm going to make this short. I don't want to play it because you know how YouTube get down, but you can watch the video. It's short. Matter of fact, I'm going to watch the rest of it. But so you can understand Samson option. Matter of fact, you know what I'm going to do? Because you might think I just made that up. I'm going to go to Google, and I'm going to put in the Samson option. And for the record, Bishop Nate a couple of weeks ago spoke about this very saying. Give me a second, y'all. I'm just going to simply ask, what is the Samson option? As soon as it pops up. Just wait for it to come up, please. Bear with me, y'all. It'll come up in a minute. Here we go. Is that it? Got it like this. What's this all about?
How does the Lord destroy his enemies? Well, when we're in the Song of Moses, we find out, like...
I don't even know how this shit came up. Okay. Bear with me for a couple seconds longer. And like I said, I would play part of that video, but the elder put clips in there, so I don't want YouTube to mess with me. Come on already, goddammit. Okay, here we go. Come on, y'all. Can we put in, I'll just click on this, the Samson option. What is the Samson option? Wait for it to come on up. Come on already, goddammit. Come on already, man. I did explain it, but I just wanted to get the Google's take on the term Samson. And that's what's going to happen. The Samson option. Remember Samson, he got his power back when he prayed to the Most High. Most High had mercy on him, gave him his power back. He held the pillars of this gathering place of the Philistines, and he killed, I believe it was 2,000. And he died in the process, but he knew he was going to die. It was like a suicide mission, you can say. So that's how Israel's thinking right now. If they ain't going to go down to loser, they're going to go down, both of them losing. And it's still acting up. Come on already. But I explained it. You know what? Okay, here it goes. Sorry for y'all waiting. It's taking some time to come up. And I'm pretty sure that the elder breaks down the Samson option. We don't want to watch the rest of it. Why is it saying he's thinking? This dude's not difficult. Okay, here we go. The Samson action is a military strategy of last resort in which Israel, Palestine, would allegedly use its nuclear weapons as a last resort. It is a doomsday contingency plan meant to deter existential threats by ensuring that if the state of Israel is militarily defeated and destroyed, it will take its enemies down with them.
So make their habitations
So
desolate.
they just
with
know
them.
that they're going to take down enemies, and even if they go down. The name, give me a second, the name is derived from the biblical figure Samson, an Israelite judge, who, I'm glad they didn't say a Jewish judge, an Israelite judge, he's a Danite, by the way, who, after being captured and blinded by the Philistines, destroyed a temple by pulling down its central pillars, because he got his strength back. This act caused a mass casualty event that killed both Samson and 1,000, I believe it was 2,000, if you go to the account, serving as the ultimate act of destruction and final resistance. So that's why they call it what they call it. So I guess it's in the back of their mind that they might just go down because they figured Iran was going to just surrender, and they ain't surrendering. And Nero's looking stupid right now. Anyway, let me come back over here to the video. Give me a second, y'all.
You know they're going to make war with Turkey as well. King Baby already declared that.
Here we go. Just click on it. So here we go. Just watch this video. I guarantee you it's a good video. A lot of good information, guaranteed. This was put up an hour ago. Check out the comments real quick. Yeah, this man is done, man. He's pushing this thing. He want to get that AI system, data banks going. As you can see. Anyway, like I said, I was going to make this short. Shalom on to the next.
Yep, going into all precepts. And of course, like everything else though, keep you distracted. Another fake shooting, right? You know, supposedly this one involves a Muslim, right? It involves Muslims and Nazis. So, you know, to keep that monologue going, right? You know, that there's going to be this infighting between Zionism, Islam, and Christianity, right? You know, because if you listen to the words of Albert Pike, that's how the Third World War would be. So they got to keep that narrative going, you know. Shooters and motives revealed in San Diego mosque shooting that killed 3. So, this was an assault against a mosque. So, you know, they got to keep this thing going and keep everything flared up. 2 young alleged gunmen descended upon a San Diego Islamic facility on Monday, killing 3 men and themselves. Dead men tell no tales. Have been identified along with early indicators of their motives. Police sources have told multiple outlets that 17-year-old Keon Clark and 18-year-old Caleb Velasquez happen to be Latinos, as you can look in those pictures there. Although those look more like females than they do males. Well, Keon Clark, at least. But anyways, driven by hate, scrawled racist themes on their weapons and carried a gas can embezzled with a Nazi SS sticker. One of them left a suicide note emphasizing racial pride. You know. And just so happens to be a Latino because, you know, this king of Babylon has been coming very hard against them, right? Police say that after leaving the Islamic Center, the alleged young murderers fired shots at a landscaper 2 blocks away, with one of the wounds grazing his helmet. He wasn't wounded. Soon after, the 2 were found dead inside a white BMW another block away from the Islamic Center, having apparently died of self-inflicted gunshots. Oh, so they took themselves out. Inside the vehicles, investigators found some type of God damn it! Fuck, I hate that. Now I've totally lost the place. Well, you get the idea, right? BMW containing gasoline stick. Police said hate speech was written on their firearms. Yep, it was a hate crime. Automatically, you know, just to keep that all roused up, right? But you got the idea that they're going to take over Cuba soon as well, you know, because he's going all in. And this is, I believe, a celebrity. Enrique Tarrio wants the Cuban dictatorship to fall, but will the CIA stage a false flag? So, like everything else, though, you know, indicators of a false flag event happening, because they're saying they're going after narco-terrorists again and trying to link Cuba to it, right? To give you the false narrative. You know, the same shit shows before. Hoping for a Venezuela style, you know, is what Nero 47 is going to go in as, so we'll see. U.S. launches more airstrikes against Nigeria. The U.S. claimed more airstrikes against Nigeria as Trump administration continues to escalate U.S. military involvement in the country. U.S. Africa Command said in a press release that it conducted additional kinetic strikes against northeastern Nigeria on the 17th of May after the U.S. and Nigeria carried out a joint commando operation that the two countries claimed. So-called senior ISIS leader, which ISIS works for the U.S., it's a false flag group that they use, like Hamas and all the other ones, you know, so that way they can have their way. You know, it worked for Syria because now you got ISIS leading Syria. So what a perfect covert, you know, but they have to give you the illusion that they're fighting ISIS. You know, that way they can destroy all the infrastructure, so that's what they're doing, is they're taking out Nigeria under the guise of fighting ISIS. Same story that happened in Syria. It's just the same playbook over and over again. Trump said he decided to hold off plans to attack Iran on Tuesday due to requests from Gulf Arab allies. So today he was supposed to attack, but, you know, he's backing down from it because, of course, like everything else, though, you know, they got to give you the belief that there's going to be a peace talks. Trump claimed that the request to delay the attack came from the leaders of Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. The president said that he would oblige the request, but threatened that a U.S. attack on Iran could happen at any moment. So, here we go. You know, the war never ended. So here we go. You know, Trump's big announcement, you know. You know, President Trump makes an announcement on Iran war after calling off strikes in favor of Mideast peace talks. Oh, yeah, he wants to talk peace. Can you eat this horse shit? You know, look at this horse shit. So here we go. And this is from somebody on Facebook who actually makes good points, so we're just going to play her video a little bit. So, like everything else, though, he was asked to call it off, and it's got to give you the idea that Iran wants to talk. Yeah, Iran does want to talk. They want an end to the war, and they want reparations. They're not backing down from that. And there's no talks about nuclear because Iran was never seeking a nuclear weapon to begin with.
He was going to bomb Iran tomorrow, but this happened instead. Thank goodness for Trump always, for Taco Trump, right? Trump always chickens out. So he says this on a truth post. He says, I've been asked by the Emir of Qatar, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, and the President of the United Arab Emirates, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, to hold off on our planned military attack of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which was scheduled for tomorrow. In that serious negotiations are now taking place, and that, in their opinion, as great leaders and allies, a deal will be made, which will be very acceptable to the United States of America, as well as all countries in the Middle East and beyond. This deal will include, importantly, no nuclear weapons for Iran. Based on my respect for the above-mentioned leaders, I have instructed Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Daniel Kane, and the United States military, that we will not be doing the scheduled attack of Iran tomorrow, but have further instructed them to be prepared to go forward with a full, large-scale assault of Iran on a moment's notice in the event that an acceptable deal is not reached. Thank you for your attention to this matter. How many times has he done this? What exactly goes through his mind? I mean, every time he says, okay, we're going to bomb him tomorrow. We're this close. Oh, wait, we might have a deal. And then they don't have a deal, obviously, because we keep doing this over and over again, which I'm not against. I'm totally fine with us continuing to not go to war. But how long do they think they can do this? We're going to go to war. No, we're not. We're going to go to war. No, we're not. I mean, I guess Iran is sitting there saying, well, we're not bombing you. But if you attack us, we're going to attack you. And so it gets serious. And so then he says, okay, well, never mind. You know, we're not going to bomb you. Now, how did we get to this point? Because over the weekend, Trump has been saying pretty much that they were toast. He actually posted on social media. This was on Sunday.
Yeah,
he says,
I remember that.
Yesterday morning, he says, for Iran, the clock is ticking, and they better get moving fast, or there won't be anything left of them. Time is of the essence. And then he starts posting these social media posts. I mean, this one he posted, which is Iran surrounded by the United States, and how we could invade them from every aspect, every angle, which would be the most historically stupid thing ever. and Americans did not vote for this. And then he also shows this, Space Force, and look at this. Let me just show you this up close if I can. Yeah, there he is pushing, he's got the red button, showing that he's got these space lasers. I mean, this couldn't be more stupid. I mean, didn't they say it's the Jews who have space lasers or something? So is this kind of like playing into that? Like, oh, so it turns out the stereotype's real because this is Israel's war. And here's Donald Trump basically showing he's got space lasers that are going to aim down and shoot and blow up Iran.
Yep,
so he
space
puts these,
war.
like, we're going to get you. Even though I don't think anybody takes this seriously. But certainly Trump, and Lindsey Graham, of course, does. Lindsey Graham made his rounds Sunday morning saying he wants to blow shit up. Here he
So
is.
you're calling for strikes on the energy infrastructure?
I'm calling to hurt this regime. If you do the same old thing, you're going to get the same result. Hurt
Yeah,
them
here's
more,
this
maybe
douche.
they'll make a deal if you hurt them enough. But right now, I think they're trying to weigh sell. I think they're playing games. And in the words of the president, I think they're crazy. I think he's right.
I'm pretty sure you're the crazy one. But, there he is going on the shows telling everybody that we should be blowing stuff up. And then we hear this report that, and this again was Sunday, so this is all Sunday, yesterday. Then we get this report that Trump and Netanyahu had a phone call Sunday night, and then it looked like Netanyahu was getting ready to do something against Iran. The report from the Times of Israel says Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke with U.S. President Donald Trump Sunday evening about the war with Iran. Netanyahu's office confirmed to the Times of Israel. The leaders discussed the possibility of renewing the war with Iran, as well as Trump's recent trip to China, according to Hebrew media reports. Netanyahu was then set to convene top aides and ministers for a security discussion in his office in Jerusalem. Such discussions in the Prime Minister's office, often termed the small security cabinet, usually include Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar, Defense Minister Israel Katz, Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, National Security Minister Itmar Ben-Gvir, and some chairman. So that was Sunday night. So they were convening after their phone call with Donald Trump, like, oh, we're going to bomb Iran, hooray, this is what, or at least the United States is going to be invading. It's not going to be any of our troops, of course. It's just going to be a bunch of Americans who die for Israel. Or we could just use the space lasers, right? Why do we need to, invade them or anything? So Trump then also puts this out. This was this morning. So Monday morning, then Trump says, if Iran surrenders, and so this is what he's asking for. Now listen to this. And now he's tacoed, right? So this was his demand, and now here we are right now where he says, I was going to bomb them, but now I'm not. But I was going to, but now I'm not. So he says, if Iran surrenders, admits their navy is gone and resting at the bottom of the sea, and their air force is no longer with us, and if their entire military walks out of Tehran, weapons dropped and hands held high, each shouting, I surrender, while wildly waving the representative white flag, and if their entire remaining leadership signs all necessary documents of surrender and admit their defeat to the great power and force of the magnificent USA, the failing New York Times, the China Street Journal, the Wall Street Journal, corrupt and now irrelevant CNN, and all other members of the fake news media will headline that Iran had a masterful and brilliant victory over the United States of America. It wasn't even close. The Democrats and media have totally lost their way. They've gone absolutely crazy. Okay, so I guess this wasn't really, I should have read the whole thing before I talked about it, but I guess this wasn't really a surrender, like his terms of surrender. Although you can see why I thought that just reading the beginning of it, because he's crazy right now, and so this would make sense for him to be like, all 1 million of your military members need to put their guns down, put their hands up, walk out of Tehran and say, I surrender, I surrender.
Hands up, don't shoot.
That would make sense if these are his demands.
That happens here, not over there.
And the Wall Street Journal and New York and all of these, CNN and everybody would still report that Iran won. I don't know, or maybe Iran is winning. I get that they are the fake news. I get that they've been wrong on a lot of stories, for sure. But a broken clock is right twice a day, right? That's what they say, and that is true. And sometimes, and that's kind of the problem with, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, all of them should have learned a lesson, which they haven't. But one of the lessons they should have learned is, when you're constantly making things up, or when you're rather than just reporting news, you're instead creating enemies, and you're really partisan, then when you are telling the truth, people just won't believe you.
Yep.
And right now, the truth is, Iran does have the upper hand, clearly, because Trump continues to taco. And why would he do that? If he felt like he had the upper hand at all, he wouldn't need to, and we would have been done with this by now. But he doesn't really want, and I mean, we could say this all day, we can make excuses all day, but here we are, we're at war with Iran, and none of us ever thought that Trump would do that. So I mean, many of us would have said a few months ago that Trump doesn't want war with Iran, he really doesn't want war with Iran, it's Israel that wants it, and Trump doesn't really want to do it, so he wouldn't do it, which many of us thought that. And so a lot of me wants to say the same sort of thing now, like, well, Trump doesn't really want to end.
Or he is one of them, he is Amalek, he is an Israeli. Think about it. He's Mossad. He's been over here for Mossad. He works with the Israeli state because he is one. What if that? What if he's not compromised? What if he was part of the plan all along? That's what these people can't get. They think that he's just being manipulated. What if it's his plan all along? What if he is Israeli? See, that's what they, aren't figuring. The Israeli state, AIPAC has people installed everywhere, so you get these Amalekites in power, right? And you get them to do what you want them to, right? You don't even have to manipulate them if they're already part of the 1%. So anyways, there's a little bit more, RT breaking down the same thing. So, fake news, right? Yeah, because nobody trusts the sewer stream media anymore, right? Because they lost all their credibility. But, you know, they still got to call it fake news because the real liars got to flip the script, you know. Always went into that. But nonetheless, though, here we go.
A US plan to bomb Iran on Tuesday has been put on hold. That is the latest claim coming from Donald Trump, who says he only agreed to press pause after 3 of his Arab allies intervened.
I have been asked by the Emir of Qatar, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, and the President of the United Arab Emirates, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, to hold off on our planned military attack of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which was scheduled for tomorrow, and that serious negotiations are now taking place. And that, in their opinion, as great leaders and allies, a deal will be made, which will be very acceptable to the United States of America, as well as all countries in the Middle East and beyond.
Well, always great to hear the views
And this guy's really good.
Senior security policy analyst Michael Maloof joining us live.
Yeah, Michael Maloof has always been on
Michael,
point.
great to have you on today. We've yet to hear a response from Iran to this. But what is your view? Was an attack imminent? Was it forthcoming this Tuesday?
Donald Trump says it was, and I tend to believe it because there seemed to be a crescendo building over here, at least. You'll notice that, but again, it depended upon the last person he spoke to. You'll recall when he met with Xi Jinping, I think President Xi sort of dampened Trump's enthusiasm to launch. But right after that, Netanyahu gets in touch with Trump, and the next thing you know, he's making his bombastic statements about the time is ticking and all of that nonsense. And then he reportedly now has announced that these world leaders or these Arab leaders came to him and said, "Hold off. They think they can work out a deal." Again, it's the last people he's spoken to that tend to guide him. Only because I think his determination, what have you, to carry this out is really not there. Although Netanyahu keeps nudging him, I would not doubt. Then the next day or two, Netanyahu will be back in touch with Trump to give him a little spine and make him feel that Israel has his back, which is for what that's worth. But I don't know, frankly, what deal the Iranians will offer at this point, because when you look at their proposals compared to that of what the United States has insisted that they adhere to, there's no comparison. There's nothing that seems to even come close to any points that can be worked out. So I don't know what the Iranians may or may not be coming back with that will assuage the Arab leaders or even Trump to hold off. I doubt that anything that the Iranians come forward with, Trump will find unacceptable, and in the end, and that's where I think it's going to head. But we anticipate. My view was that attacks could begin as early as Wednesday, but they can still happen later this week, for that matter. Depends upon what the latest proposal is that reportedly is coming forward from the Iranians. Nobody knows yet.
It is interesting, Michael. Just hours ago, I was talking about the Arab leaders and the conciliatory tone that we were hearing from Iran's foreign ministry towards their neighbours now, which hasn't always been there. But now we have Donald Trump saying that Arab nations intervened in this case. Where do you see their role in what's unfolding, or what could be unfolding this week?
They're direct targets. If the United States and Israel launch against Iran, Iran has already made it known that they will hit vital infrastructure of those Arab countries, and including the bases where the U.S. Resides. And in fact, they're in all of those countries: Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia, among others. And there are other Gulf countries that that U.S. has bases. Those bases constitute extreme vulnerability now for the United States. But also, there's the infrastructure that if Trump carried out what he threatened to do, which was hit the infrastructures of electricity and maybe desalinization oil and annihilate, basically send Iran back to the Stone Age. I can guarantee you the Iranians would do the same for those Gulf Arab countries. And in fact, it's becoming even more intense simply because we have heat developing there now. And if there's no air conditioning, no desalinization for fresh water, the people are going to have to leave. Some of these countries, where will they go? It's that critical. You cannot survive the summers in the Middle East without air conditioning and fresh water. It's that simple. And if those products and infrastructures vital infrastructures are demolished, it's going to be a humanitarian problem as well.
So it's no surprise then, really, is it, that they're using whatever pressure they can, or they hold, or attempting to show to the US that we don't want this war to restart because it's going to be costly for us?
Oh, absolutely. For them, it's going to be. In fact, I think the Iranians may have accomplished what they set out to do with these Gulf Arab countries, and that is to maybe reconsider basing U.S. assets, military assets, in the region for that very reason. And they now have the experience of seeing that actually happening. I understand, for example, that Saudi Arabia may have brought in some Pakistani aircraft. I got that
troops, report,
as well as troops and to basically defend Saudi Arabia in case there's an attack. But maybe those Gulf area countries now are looking around for an alternative security system that doesn't put them in jeopardy. But they don't want war. They know what the consequences are, and they also know that Iran retains more than half of its missiles and drones, and they are very accurate. They can get these vital infrastructures, and they're all vulnerable. By the way, they're not in any protected mode. They're all out there in the open. So what's been destroyed already in those countries will take years to fix up, and if there's no further military action, but I suspect there will be.
Welcome to Gog Magog, because that's what's going to come in. When you're talking about alternatives and something different than the U.S. and its bases there, welcome to Gog Magog. Russia will be a guard unto these places. Stopping any further Israeli, or at least to deter the Israeli aggression, which their desolations, that their habitations become desolate with them, meaning that, Samson option, just like Apostle Tahar and the rest of us are going into, that Israeli state will do that. And Damascus is a target right there because, like everything else, it's just a matter of which one fires on them. Right now, you got pretty much an Israeli regime already in Syria. They're loyal to the Israeli state. ISIS is loyal to the Israeli state, so it's looking more like the adversaries of the U.S. and Israeli state would destroy Damascus. But we'll see. Either way, Damascus gets caught in the conflict and gets destroyed. Syria turns herself to flee. Pain and sorrows fall upon her, right? The city of praise not left, becoming totally desolate in this war, this upcoming war. The last hour. But the hour of temptation's got to come before that last hour, which is the New World Order. And what's interesting is they're saying they're going to run out of oil by the 4th of July, which is officially the 250th year. Well, isn't that interesting? If the dollar is dead and the petrodollar no longer exists and there's no oil to even give it any value, then indeed, now you're in the New World Order. And their goal is to have everyone chipped. Peshkin vows to fight amid Trump's escalating war rhetoric. So they're ready to go. Peshkin noted that the enemy, having failed to bring Iran to its knees in 3 days, now attempt to create division between the Iranian people and their officials. We will not bow. I will never bow before any power. We will not sacrifice the country's dignity for the sake of comfort seeking and our own worldly desires. But we must manage the country with prudence and wisdom, he added. And like everything else, unlike Bashar al-Assad, who rested, Iran just kept on preparing and preparing, knowing that they were next. They've been preparing for quite some time. Ever since they've seen Iraq go down, they knew that they would be eventually attacked. He further noted that the enemies unjustly martyred the leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Khamenei, without any scientific, legal, or human rights logic. He started that they killed Iranian commanders, ministers, and scientists and martyred the innocent students. Yep, but like everything else, he added those who claimed to uphold human rights and international law saw those crimes but stood by and only watched. And that's all true. They all just watched. They watched while Libya got taken down. Go back to Muammar Gaddafi. They all fucking watched as he got taken down. Bashar al-Assad laughed at him. Bashar al-Assad was next. It took years to bring down Bashar al-Assad, but eventually he went down. But they laughed at Gaddafi. He said, one of you will be next. Well, a lot of them were next. They didn't take it serious, but Iran did. So, like everything else, Iran has made it clear that any return to ceasefire negotiations depends on the lifting of the U.S. naval blockade, which is continued. Officials have said that the continued blockade continues violation of the truce. Well, there is no truce there. They're just stalling and just playing around with it. Why? Because they really don't have any clout. And it doesn't matter if they get plunged and it's just nothing but burning hot. Trump doesn't have to fight a war, but the people over there do, and they're going to be stuck in a hot, hot wilderness. And these Babylonians, they won't know what hit them. They're not used to hot weather like that. these spoiled pieces of shit, have to have air conditioning just for weather over here in the U.S. Imagine how much hotter it is over there, but there's no AC, there's nothing. They're a bunch of pussies, and they're going to get fried. Fry, fuckers. New fronts will be opened if enemy falls into Israeli trap, commits another folly. Because like everything else, so you go after their energy infrastructure, their water centers. What do you think Iran's going to do? Brigadier General Odysee, the spokesman of the army, made remarks during a public gathering at Velskoy Square in Tehran, according to the Army's Public Relations Department. Islamic Republic of Iran cannot be blockaded or defeated. If the enemy commits another folly and falls into the Zionist trap again and launches another aggression against our dear Iran, we will open new fronts against them with new tools and methods. Ceasefire treated as wartime, and that's exactly what it is, wartime. Spokesman also presented a report of the measures of Iran's armed forces, particularly the army, and said the army has treated the ceasefire period as a time of war, using the opportunity to strengthen its combat power. So that's the truth. See, they know that they're at war, and that they're still at war. While everybody, the U.S. doesn't have the means to go after them because they can't even take care of matters at home. That never mattered to Trump anyways. He doesn't care about any of that. Like he says, I don't care about the hard-working people. That never crossed my mind. And they're shameful spewing about against the king of Babylon, if you hadn't caught the previous videos. But, he told you straight out the gate that he doesn't give a shit about you. Same thing we've been telling you, right? Your leaders has failed you. Your leadership has failed you because you're the devil that the Bible speaks of. So what do you think was going to happen? You were only here for a short time. You're just getting the kingdom ready for the next to rule, which is Yahweh Shai and the elect 144,000, as well as the 1/3. Israel will be back. The real Israelites, not this fake Israel that you see out there. Israeli restrictions and violence are deepening Gaza's hunger crisis. Sometimes we only eat bread and tea for 10 days, a mother told the New Arab. Children ask for fruit and meat, but these things have become a dream. In other words, it's a pipe dream. They're never going to see it. So it's just tea and, of course, bread. That's all that they got. A deepening food crisis in the Gaza Strip is raising concerns among humanitarian agencies. But what are they going to do? Oh, we condemn. They don't do anything. So here we go. Here's a flotilla that was supposed to come to them. Well, Israelis did what they do best. They seized it. Israeli terrorists stormed Gaza-bound aid flotilla. A sister of Ireland's president was among those detained, according to activists. Israeli terrorists seized at least 39 out of 51 boats at the global Summit flotilla carrying humanitarian aid to Gaza. The organizers of the action have said. So, like everything else, though, they were invaded and stripped of everything. Here's what these Israeli terrorists do. The Hunger Games. So, there it is. Yeah, they shut the fucking camera off, but it's too late. Amnesty International condemns Israeli move to block Gaza aid flotilla as shameful and inhumane. That's all they're going to say. Yep, we condemn, but you're not going to do anything about it. Who can stand up to the Israeli state? Who's like it? Because guess what? The U.S. controls Israel. Israel controls the U.S. They are one, so guess what, though? It doesn't matter. If you condemn or not, there's not a damn thing you can do. Israeli naval forces begun intercepting the humanitarian mission headed towards Gaza to challenge the Israeli maritime blockade, according to Israeli media reports. So, pretty much have cut it off. Nobody can get in, but you see what's going to happen over here, especially once the MOTB is mandated, and that's coming amidst all this. They're engineering the collapse, which is running out of oil. It's just the beginning of things. Hell, you don't even need hantavirus to get everything locked down. You just might have uproars of the people causing it to get locked down, right? Because Trump already showed that he's going to bring in National Guard and everything else. Just if you protest ISIS, With shelling raids, Israeli state killing southern Syria's agricultural sector. Because like everything else, though, you got ISIS-led government that doesn't give a shit about what these Israelis do. So Syria has been destroyed. Residents describe how Israeli raids and incursions have occurred almost daily, and this is disaster for the agricultural season. Well, that never stopped them before. Look at what they've done to Gaza. Well, it's happening to Syria. It's happening to Lebanon. And Yemen, if they could get in. The countryside of Quneitra and Dara, southern Syria, has witnessed further violence in recent hours by Israeli occupation forces. See, like everything else, though, they were using Saudi Arabia to go in, but Saudi Arabia has really backed off a lot on the attacks on Yemen. But they put a hurt on Yemen, but Yemen still stood, even with that. But now, Israeli state has taken over all those other areas. See, they had to use Saudi Arabia to go into Yemen. They didn't have enough to go into Yemen, so they used Saudi Arabia to do it. Because, you know, they're a little bitch. Saudi Arabia sold out long ago, but now they're just looking for something else. They're looking to Russia, while still trying to hold on to the U.S. You know, who the fuck knows why, right? Well, like everything else, so they play both sides. Kind of like Turkey has played both sides, but in the end, they're gonna select Russia. All of them are gonna select Russia. Russia is gonna be a guard unto all those places, and that's where you see them coming in. That they have to have somebody new. You know, that this U.S. policy and U.S. bases ain't gonna hold anymore. We need new bases. We need new protection. That's where Russia comes in. We're gonna see a lot of that. Local sources told the New Arab that Israeli terrorists shelled agricultural land surrounding the village of Tanja in northern Quneitra countryside Tuesday morning, firing 3 heavy artillery shells. No human casualties or materials were damaged, but they're destroying the land. But that's what these terrorists do. And so, like everything else, though, you know, it just leads me over to here. So here's how you do it. Here's how you usher in a crisis. And, you know, you got your problem reaction solution, right? You know, because the MOTB will be mandated. It's just a matter of setting it up. And that's what they're doing. We've been telling you.
To World Alternative Media here, and this is not a false alarm, my friends. Everything that we've been talking about for so long regarding the supply chain is happening right now, and people seem extremely docile about it, and it's very, very concerning to me. As we see news like this from Hapag-Lloyd, the world's biggest shipping companies just rewired global trade around a war. Maersk, MSC, CMA, CGM, and Hapag-Lloyd have all quietly launched what they're calling land bridges, offloading cargo at Red Sea ports, trucking it 800 miles across Saudi Arabia through Riyadh, then reloading onto feeder ships on the other side, all because Iran controls 34 kilometers of water. Well, it's between Iran and the U.S., and whoever decides to close it. Each time Saudi Arabia just became the world's most important logistics corridor. How long before this temporary route becomes permanent infrastructure? Now they're talking about this pipeline they want to build as well, but that pipeline is going to take about 10 years. This is admission that this is going to be going on for quite some time. But this is happening as we see insane shortages across the board. If you bought $136,000 worth of potatoes last month, you'd be a millionaire today. Potato prices just exploded from 2.5 euros to 18.5 euros per 100 kilograms as fertilizer supplies shrink after the Strait of Hormuz closed. This is absolute insanity. We're seeing the same thing with sulfuric acid, which means fertilizer shortages. And we're also going to talk a little bit about the data centers and the water, the scripted collapse of the water supply, which also leads into a lot of this. There's so much happening right now that we need to understand, because again, it affects every single person watching out there, and people are still just playing complacent, sitting on their hands, and it's very alarming because this is the intro into the Great Reset that we have been talking about for so long. So
the Great Reset is to have everybody chipped.
I want you guys to check out heavensharvest.com/LambX, where again, if you subscribe for $5 a month, it goes across the board. And this is just adding to those already existing shortages. It's absolutely crazy. We have this. This is insane. If you bought $136,000 worth of potatoes last month, you'd be a millionaire today. I mean, 2.5 euros to 18.5 euros per 100 kilograms is insane. And this is the one of the biggest ingredients we find in food. But something extremely important for farmers, which farmers are reporting they can't afford right now. They already couldn't afford it before all this happened. It's sulfuric acid. It's fertilizer. Sulfuric acid is the most important ingredient for our whole industry, says Lucas Ekwum on X. Because of Hormuz and export controls, we have lost a huge chunk of global production. Sulfuric and sulfur acid is needed for fertilizer, which makes food, helps you make food. Mining, which is we include copper, nickel, zinc, uranium. Water treatment, which we'll get into a bit later too because of the issue with data centers. Manufacturing, plastics, paints, synthetic fibers, drugs, explosives. Even before the Hormuz crisis, sulfur prices were surging. Now a desperate situation is getting worse. When the most used industrial ingredient is surging, I expect prices across the whole global supply chain to rise. Now this is happening at the same time as simultaneously and so conveniently. They are bringing in ration initiatives.
Yep.
Really? Ration initiatives. not just militaristically, but like we have the United Nations Pact for the Future, which 193 countries signed on to, including probably yours, I would guess, unless you're like in Central African Republic or something. And this allows them to essentially warrant that you will be forced into a ration-based system. If you say bad things about the government, by the way, you won't be able to access your bank account. You won't be able to access your food because you'll be on a social credit score. This is stuff that's actually in legislation.
You have a chip in you to make you obey.
UK and in throughout Europe, obviously Australia, New Zealand, etc. And it's a tool that was first built in places like China. Again, all by design. It ends up on your doorstep. Now, the fertilizer shortage is huge, and we're seeing backups of trucks down highways. The gas prices going up. Trump says the financial situation of the American public is not his concern at all. He literally said that in a video that I show on my live show, which you can find again on Patreon.
Yeah, and you've seen it in our videos.
I don't care about gas prices. Gas prices are the price we pay to stop Iran from having nuclear weapons, they say. I mean, this is all part of the World Economic Forum script. Farm bankruptcies are up 46%. 70% of farmers can't afford the fertilizer they need. Diesel prices are up 60%.
Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Experts say this is the worst farm crisis since the 1980s, says Dan Osborne on X. This is an emergency, and I'm running for the farmers who keep getting left behind, so I guess this guy's running for office or something. But again, you're not going to stop the WEF's goal by running for office. You're going to stop it by withdrawing from the system that people are dependent on, which is allowing people to be put in this situation where they are, grocery stores go down, which grocery stores run out of food within a day or two. Then you're dependent on them, and then you have to succumb to that digital system that's being created.
Yep.
And on the state to give you your rations. And I guarantee you, they'll be giving you poisonous food. There's no doubt about that. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Natural News writes, why the coming engine oil shortage could cripple transportation. It says, and this is an article written by Mike Adams, our friend here at WAM. It says the engine oil crisis is closer than you think. I've been warning about the supply chain vulnerabilities for years, he says, but even I was taken aback by the warning letters that started arriving in early 2026. Honda, Nissan, and AutoZone are rumored to have notified dealers of imminent supply cuts to brand name engine oil supplies, reductions of up to 50%. As it reported back in mid-2022, the entire U.S. supply of diesel engine oil was nearly wiped out in just 8 weeks because chemical additive manufacturers declared force majeure. Now, those same dynamics are playing out on a far larger scale, triggered by a war that has shut the Strait of Hormuz. The mainstream media continues to downplay the severity, but the circumstantial evidence of growing crisis keeps mounting. The International Energy Agency has confirmed that the current Gulf energy shock surpasses the oil crises of the 1970s and the 2022 gas crisis combined. Insurers have canceled war risk coverage for vessels crossing the Strait of Hormuz, leaving ship owners scrambling. And if you think this is just about gasoline at the pump, you are missing the far more dangerous story. Engine oil is the lifeblood of every vehicle and is about to become scarce and expensive. Now that, of course, leads right down to your food. He goes into where the synthetic oil really comes from. But I want to jump down to this. Domino effect of transportation and food supply. Every diesel truck, delivery van, and personal car requires regular oil changes. Skipping them destroys engines. When engine oil becomes scarce and prohibitively expensive, the transportation network grinds to a halt. As I noted in an interview earlier this year, farming depends on steel parts and repair supplies. If there is no oil to keep tractors and trailers running, farms cannot operate. The same applies to the entire logistics chain that moves food from fields to tables. Hawaii and other import-dependent regions will be hit first and hardest, but the ripple effects will reach every corner of the country. The commodity and labor shortages we experienced in 2022 were worrisome, but this engine oil crisis adds another layer of scarcity on top of existing fertilizer and fuel shortages, he says. I am already stockpiling supplies for resilience because the geopolitical shock has triggered a global supply chain collapse in agricultural inputs. Without engine oil, even the best prepared farmer cannot harvest or transport produce. We are looking at a cascading failure that threatens basic food availability in the months ahead and well into 2027. This is extremely dangerous, and I want to mention, we already saw a 53-year cattle head shortage, which we had an issue with. I'm just crashing into my shelf here. A 53-year cattle head shortage, which we saw in 2025, which goes back to, again, 1953 at the time, or 52, I should say. And in 1952, there was about 1 billion people on Earth. 1 billion people. So we're talking about an issue that's 8 to 11 times worse now because we're not really sure what the population of Earth is. And it could be anywhere from 8 to 11 billion. They don't know. It could be more. It could be less. I don't know. But the point is, it's orders of magnitude worse. And if it's orders of magnitude worse, then the issue is orders of magnitude worse than the record shortage. Play into that, this fuel crisis and everything else, a recession, there's already inflation on top of that, and then on top of that, there's all these wars, there's these pandemic exercises, there are these pushes for, the sustainability agenda, net zero, all that, they're already going after farmers. The Netherlands, a couple years ago, as we reported, had started going after farmers. They wanted to get rid of 50% of all farms in the second top agricultural exporter country on Earth. They're going after them in Ireland, they're going after them in France. People are ignoring the farmer protests, not us, we've been reporting on it. And of course, they are doing all this at the same time as on the right side, instead of the climate agenda, they're going after, though there's weather modification on the right side as well, but they're going after people for daring to, support the current thing, the United Nations Pact for the Future. Again, these are things that I think it was a couple days ago, Mike Huckabee said those that criticize Israel will soon find that they won't be able to get food and won't be able to buy things. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Won't be able to access their banks.
Hunger
what
Games.
does that mean? They are openly
They'll treat you like Gaza.
And that's the left and the right. The right will do it with mass migration. There's this issue of mass migration. It's a real issue. It's a cultural issue. The state caused it in the first place. But now they're going to come in and say, hey, you need to have digital IDs because of that. You need to be, surveilled because of this problem that we created in the first place. It's called the Hegelian dialectic: problem, reaction, solution, repeat.
So that's what's happening, right? And we'll go into some more of this tomorrow, just for time's sake, right? But nonetheless, I want to get some scriptures here. So, no matter where you are, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, will be put into that system. And this is what awaits them. The elect are not going to take the implant whatsoever. But we're waiting on this promise that Yahweh Shai in the midst of World War III is going to gather his elect, that he's coming for us, which is why we give all praises to him, especially when we see the chariots, the angels of the Most High, watching upon us, getting ready to deliver us from this place, because it will be caught up in World War III. And of course, getting rid of the old system is bringing in the new one, right? So Russia is going to be a guard unto all these places, right? Because the petrodollar, well, that's gone now. Both Saudi Arabia and Turkey have really played on both sides of it. Well, so has United Arab Emirates and a whole bunch of others. But they're now going to be looking more towards Russia. It's going to keep on going towards Russia because the U.S. can't even secure its bases there, that they'd have much better security and protection if Russia were to come in and to supply them with shield and helmet. And it talks about this in the 30th chapter. Ezekiel chapter 38 and verse 4. And remember, the Lord Yahweh Shai is against Russia, is against Esau. And say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, I am against you, O Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. And I will turn you about and put hooks into your jaws. And this is the ESV version. And will bring you out, all your army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed in full armor, a great host, meaning Russia and its military, all of them with buckler and shield, wielding swords, meaning their ammunition, everything, their protection. Persia, Cush, and Put are with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Well, that's describing that entire region, because you already know who Persia is. Gomer and all his hordes, Bet Togarmah from the uttermost parts of the north and all his hordes, many people with you. Be ready and keep ready, and all your hosts that are assembled about you, and be a guard for them. Meaning that, all right, get ready. We're going to go after the Zionist entity. We're going to destroy it. We're going to end the Zionist regime once and for all, and they won't be able to invade you again. You will advance, this is verse 9. You will advance, coming on like a storm. You will be like a cloud covering the land. You and all your hordes and many people with you. Meaning that they're going to go in, they're going to take out the Israeli state once and for all. And the U.S., for that matter, wherever they be stationed in Syria, Iraq, all those places, they're going to drive them out. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, on that day thoughts will come into your mind, and you will devise an evil scheme. And say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will fall upon the quiet people who dwell securely, all of them dwelling without walls, having no bars or gates. In other words, to take on the Zionist entity, to seize, spoil, and carry off plunder, to turn your hand against the waste places that are now inhabited, basically going after the Zionist, Amalek, and the people who were gathered from the nations who have acquired livestock and goods, who dwell at the center of the earth. So, like everything else, though, Russia's eventually going to play its part in this. So, hopefully, this has all been edifying. You don't want to get caught in it. Don't take the implantable micro C-hip. We tell you this time and time again. And as Apostle Tahar went in, ISUBK and IUIC, you better get with the program and start teaching that the MOTB is the mandate that they're going to come up with. No, it's not an embargo. It's an implantable device. Shalom, Bracha Yahweh, Bracha Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, Wa Abba Babal. Brakatam, Jehovah elect, Shalom.